Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware sits on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and he joins me now. Senator Coons, I just wanted to start by asking you, when you hear how Secretary Rubio and Senator Graham are talking about Russia now, given what they've said in the past, what do you make of that?
Look, I think you framed it well, Jen, which is that President Trump is the one who has made a dramatic departure from our previous positions as a country. And by suggesting that Zelenskyy is responsible for Russia's invasion of Ukraine, by denouncing Zelenskyy as supposedly an illegitimate dictator, President Trump is completely reversing, standing on its head, the positions that my Republican colleagues have held for years. With the additional announcement this week that Secretary Hegseth is calling for 8% across-the-board cuts to defense spending for the next 5 years, I'll be interested to see how they turn themselves into a pretzel to somehow suggest that that advances peace through strength.
They certainly are becoming good at turning themselves into pretzels. I'll give them that. There seems to be this argument. You have sat at the negotiating table. I have been at the negotiating table. But they are making this argument that if you give Putin the parts of Ukraine he wants and also pull back assistance to Ukraine, that will put Putin in a tougher point of negotiation. That does not make any sense. But explain to us what you make of that argument.
So folks who are working for President Trump, who is allegedly a great deal maker, I think he wrote a book called The Art of the Deal, ought to go look in that book and see if there's anything in there that suggests the best way to negotiate is by giving away your major points right up front. Obviously, this isn't how Trump and Hegseth and Waltz should be negotiating with Putin. Putin is a murderous thug. He's a gangster and a KGB agent, and they all know it. And the only way to achieve a just and lasting peace for Ukraine, worthy of the fierce sacrifice of the many Ukrainians who have fought and died to recover their sovereign territory from Russian aggression, is to stand toe-to-toe with Putin and threaten to increase sanctions on Russia, threaten to send more weapons, not less, to Ukraine, and lock arms with our European partners who have already spent more than we have on Ukraine's defense and economy. If he did that, Trump would show that he understands how to achieve peace through strength. Instead, what he's doing so far is going to lead to chaos through weakness. And if he, in fact, abandons, betrays Ukraine, he will be the biggest loser of the 21st century.
One of the concerns that I know our European allies have expressed, and you and others have expressed here, is that this could give Putin a bit of a green light to take these actions in other countries in Eastern Europe. What do you think of that, and what concerns you the most?
So I was at the Munich Security Conference, Jen, with a bipartisan delegation from the Senate and House, and we met with heads of state, defense ministers, foreign ministers from throughout Eastern Europe and Western Europe, and all of them are alarmed, concerned that giving Putin a free pass to roll over the rest of Ukraine will send a signal that President Trump no longer respects our commitment to NATO and that Putin will just keep going. Once he reconstitutes his full military, they believe that he will next threaten the Baltic states, Poland, the Czech Republic, that he will threaten all of our core allies in Europe. I also have heard repeatedly, and I believe this, that Xi Jinping, the leader of the PRC, is watching closely, and that if we give him the signal that we're no longer willing to defend Ukraine, his inclination to seize Taiwan will increase dramatically. Jen, think about it. On one team, you've got Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. On the other team, you've got Ukraine, Germany, Italy, the United Kingdom, France, Belgium, Netherlands, our longtime allies. Why on earth would it make us safer and stronger for our president to put in with this other team, this team of authoritarians who have undermined and fought against everything we stand for?
Senator, one of the arguments the Trump folks make sometimes is that Americans don't want to invest in Ukraine. We've seen a little bit of this in polls in terms of spending money overseas and spending money in Ukraine. Why do you think they should? You've named some of the reasons, but why should Americans watching right now care about continuing to support Ukraine?
Americans should care because the Ukrainians are doing the fighting. They are fighting the largest, most aggressive army in Europe. And if we don't stop Putin in Ukraine, he's next going to be knocking on the door of our critical NATO allies. It is pennies on the dollar for us to partner with Europe in providing the support that Ukraine needs to continue its fight, rather than having to send American troops to defend our allies in Poland and the Baltic states. You mentioned, Jen, at the beginning of this show, what happened in 2008 and in 2014 when Putin rolled into Georgia and Moldova and then took Crimea and then moved into the Donbass. The lack of deterrence back then, in no small part, led to this additional aggression 3 years ago. And if we fail to deter and to stop Putin here, I think there's no end to how much of the former Soviet empire he will intend to take back.
Senator Chris Coons, thank you so much for joining us. I know it was loud there. I appreciate you taking the time.